So we are good to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the only thing I'm gonna do is, we'll dispense with a little bit of the formality of the beginnings of this workshop, but at least we'll do a roll call so that we know, for the purposes of, the recording, who is present and participating in this budget workshop. And to do that, I will just, start with Commissioner Chesney,
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Modis.
Here with the broken mic still.
Oh, you ought to take hers.
You know, I couldn't hear, but I kind of felt like he was there.
Yes, he says here, but his mic's still broken.
Mike's still.
Oh, that's right. Hey, steal mine for the day, Commissioner Modis.
I don't want those germs.
Take my mic that's there. And Commissioner Vaughn.
Here.
Okay, great. Well, for the audience's purposes, your commissioner's court is complete, and I do certify that we have a quorum present. And on the virtual remote video is Tyner Little, Court Administrator. And also we have in the courtroom Dale Ashley, County Auditor, Teresa McLemore. Is there anybody else that is on the meeting that I need to recognize at this time? Oh, Ernest Garza, who's representing the county as well, is on the telephone, and perhaps he'll join by video later. Is there anybody else that I need to recognize at this time?
My budget account, Lisa Davis is here.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Dale, who?
Lisa,
Lisa Davis.
Lisa, of course. Thank you, Lisa. Sorry, I can't see all of you, so. And also, we have an opportunity to have this as a portal for the public to participate and hear. So a few rules of housekeeping before we get started. I'm going to ask you to presume that your mics are hot, even if it says that they're not. Just be thoughtful about it, and I will do my very best if you'll be patient with me. When you need to speak, if you will signal to me in the room that you need to chime in, and I will make certain that we can unmute you and give you the opportunity to visit. For that reason, I might sound like I'm on slow motion, but I'm going to go just a little deliberately slower than normal, I hope, in my manner of speaking, just so that we don't talk over one another and that I give you an opportunity. Oh yeah, that's so much better. Now I can see the room. That I give everybody an opportunity to be able to weigh in. Most of today's workshop will be conducted by Dale as a presenter, and we're going to let him begin. But first, I wanted to make sure that everybody feels good about the virtual room, that there are no more further technical difficulties, and that we can proceed. I also want to remind you that we'll be back tomorrow, August the 4th, and again on August the 5th. As many of you know from this morning's press release, I will be attending all three of those virtually from my home. But with this great technology, it's like having me there. So I feel very strongly about this means of communicating. I also borrowed from my office my whiteboard. So if you remember from last year, you're not going to escape the whiteboard. I'm going to bring it into court, into the virtual room tomorrow when we really get to the nitty-gritty of talking about our tax rates. And so I'll be able to even write things down, and you might want to bring one in for you as well. So with that, if there are any questions at this time on how we're going to proceed or the housekeeping? Okay, so I just want to say thank you before we begin to Dale, Ade, Lisa, the Sabre, the whole staff of the auditor's office for putting together an even more modern book than last year. Last year was a new look for the county, and this year continues to build upon what I believe an urban county ought to look like, and with a guide for a citizen regarding the budget and the components of the budget and how we spend dollars and where the money comes from and challenges, and just a really fantastic overview for a citizen to be able to view. And of course, you'll remember that we take this and we make a shortened version and we print it for citizens. And so we hope to do that again as well. So you have your budget books in front of you that's been provided. I understand there was an update to P1 through P3. All of you should have that. And with that, Dale, I don't hear any questions or anybody slowing us down. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and your team to present the book that everybody has in front of you for today.
Thank you, Your Honor. We try to get you a hard copy of this on Friday. However, we were challenged with fighting with the appraisal district on several issues because the way the calculation of our new no revenue tax and our voter approved rates has changed. The comptroller hasn't had everything completed yet for the software, and there were some challenges with the appraisal district. So we finally reached a ideal and agreement with them as well as our tax office on a few items on calculation. When we get to those rates, we'll talk about it. You should have a copy that we submitted you digitally, so hopefully you had a chance to review some of this over the weekend. We won't go through all of it today since we have tomorrow as well, and we'll get into more detailed numbers tomorrow. But we wanted to have a chance to have you see this. We'll be able to provide you anything you would like. If you want more detail of this, we can open the OpenGov for you and let you see some stuff visually if you would like. However, it's a little more complicated in there on how to pull stuff together because we have to split certain things apart because how we do things with the budget-wise. For example, the insurance, the gasoline, some of the utility costs aren't supported, are not created by the departments. They're monitored by my office and my staff, and we put in the adjustments for that. So those won't be part of their department requests. They'll be part of my request for their department. So if you try to see that, you'll kind of miss that. So again, you should have the packet before you. It is a very, very lengthy book, several hundred pages long. We try to give you some visual items. You'll see the table of contents showing you where everything is located at. A through X is where we're going through those tabs. And you'll see each one of them in a certain spot. And if we needed to, we reference several of the departments. If we go to tab A, you'll see tab A is where we're understanding what the Nueces County budget is. This was put together by staff. She did a very detailed job on putting together what is the Nueces County budget, what's the components of our budget, what our roles are, what our trade-offs are, where our money comes from, where it goes to. I won't go into great detail, but as you know, the county's budget is a policy decision made by the Commissioners Court and provided to the citizens so it can be easily understandable as how it works for the county as well as how the money coming in, the money going out is worked. And you'll see that the adopted plan of the budget is to balance your budget where the county must balance our budget in accordance with section 111.039 of the local government code. And we always do that, and sometimes we do that by using resources and our fund balance. But however, we still do a balanced budget. Go to our roles on page A7. You'll see our roles for the Commissioners Court. Y'all are the governing body of the county. Y'all set the tax rate. Y'all approve all the budgets. Y'all fill vacancies, set the salaries and benefits, and you have the exclusive authority to authorize contracts. The county judge is our presiding officer of the county's Commissioners Court, as well as the head of the Emergency Management Court Division, and also has some administrative duties depending on the size of the county. As commissioners, y'all's role is numerous and very diverse, where y'all set the policies and procedures of the county. You're responsible for the roads and bridges in your precincts, as well as other items, and you make other decisions as see fit. My position as the county auditor, I'm appointed by the district judges of the county. The county auditor also serves as your budget officer in counties with population of over 225,000, which we do. That's in accordance to local government code 111.032. However, the Commissioners Court can choose, if you so choose, to appoint a budget officer if you so choose, but there's certain time periods that can be done. We go to A9, you'll see where does the money come from and where does the money go. You'll see a nice little dollar bill at the top where our money comes from. As you see, 49% of our funds comes from property taxes. 0.23 comes from other types of taxes, which is your bingo tax and your other small little tax items. charges for services, which like your clerk fees, your other fees that we have are 16%. We have investment 1%, rental commission at 1%, and intergovernmental revenue, which includes some of our grants, is 27%. That's where you see where the money comes from. Now the big question of where the money goes. You see the breakdown of this. The largest part of our cost, where it goes, is in personnel. We have $52.6 million of general fund cost of the budget goes to personnel. And you see the rest is other expenses. And you'll see telephone utilities, maintenance of equipment. So that's where most of our money goes to. On page 810, 811, you'll just see how the accountability works for the evaluations. Evaluations is set by, in accordance with local government code 114. I present the finances to you and I evaluate the balances how they see fit. As we talked about in the last few quarters, here's our county debt on page 811. You see our total debt. Let me get my glasses, sorry. The $119,498,090 in total outstanding debt, and that includes all of our debt requirements, including our state infrastructure bonds that is for our Harbor Bridge. Now, we've also talked about our capital improvement program, and for this particular year, you'll see the capital improvement plan in the very back of the book on tab X. Again, IDA put that together and it's very well put together. However, it does change almost constantly. On page 812, you'll see where we're talking about tax rates. We'll be talking about tax rates in a minute, as well as our appraised value. We'll talk about how much the values was in new property. And then we'll talk about what our different rates are when we get to the point. That is the topic of how we understand the budget. I'll be glad to answer any question you might have before we begin somewhere else. Do we have any questions?
Are there any questions that anybody has of Jael on the understanding Nueces County's budget? The only thing I wanted to add is something that Dale started with, because I want to make sure that it doesn't get too misinterpreted. Early on, we were not able to get you the calculations as quickly as we would have liked, but that had less to do with the tax appraiser's office than it had to do with the Texas State Comptroller's office. 190 out of our 254 counties had a issue that had to do with the software that the Texas Comptroller's office was using and had not been adequately adjusted for SB2. And so as a result, they found it at our tax office, and we let the Comptroller's office know. The software technology company that they worked with our appraiser's office, and subsequently we helped kind of cause a ripple effect with other appraisals office. So I guess change can also come with some frustration. So I just want you to know it was no fault of our auditors, and it was really no fault of our appraiser's office either. It was change can sometimes, require a little of adjustment. So anyway, just wanted you guys to know that, because when I heard that the calculations were not timely, I made sure that we talked to Ronnie and found out why, and was able to speak with Don Causey, and he explained the scenario. So with that, we can move on to B.
Quick question, Dale. Is this online for anyone who wants to go online and see it yet? How do people get a copy of this? I know we just got it today, but how are we doing that for anybody who wants to see what we're working on so far?
We'll get it put on the website under our office. Teresa has a copy of the entire book. At the moment now, it should be being broadcast now.
And I'm sorry, you said it is online and it's under what?
Well, it's not online yet, but it will be. I'll put it in my auditor's office website as a workshop folder. Teresa has it now, and it's part of the screen you're seeing now. It's part of the file she has. It's the entire book, but we'll make sure it gets part. We'll make sure it gets part of on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dale, go ahead. Let's go on to B, which is also probably the second most important for a citizen maybe to look at, is section B, the proposed budget of 2020 to 2021. And I'll let you begin. I'm going to go back on mute.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is the very beginning of the proposed numbers we have. Of course, this will change as we go through the workshops and making adjustments that the court decides to make, and whatever else we have, whether it's reducing some values here or adding values at some point in time. Whatever our tax rate, whatever y'all decide would then be updated here. But these are some key issues of what we currently have at the moment. Some of the issues that occurred during the current fiscal year that will affect next fiscal year that we'll go over, as well as some other minor issues that we talk about. As we go to B2 and B3, you'll see that our guidelines, as we said before, is to adopt a balanced budget for the county. Now on page B3, you'll see our mission statements, our visions, our principles and goals. As we know, the county carries out our mission by delivering timely, high-quality, state-mandated service in the most cost-efficient, innovative manners possible for the county. The mission of the Nueces County is to deliver these services at the most reasonable way we can. Our guiding principles are equality, fairness, and respect, financial stability, operational excellence, as well as leaders in innovation is the way we want to go. Our goals is economic growth, to repair our infrastructure, public safety, emergency management, administration of justice, and as well as financial stability. If we go to B4 and B5, you'll see our economic outlook. And this comes from several of the books we have. You'll see that Nueces County is currently the 15th largest county in the state of Texas, with an estimated population of 362,294. However, the city of Corpus Christi is the 8th largest city in the state. So we're the 15th largest county. However, we have the 8th largest city. As you look on here right now, the unemployment rate is the very big number you see. It shows you the comparison of 2019, 2020. You'll see Texas right now is 12.7% for 2020, and however 19 is 3.1. The city of Corpus is 3.8 last year, 14.7 this year. For the county, we're at 14.6% unemployment rate, when last year was 3.6. So you see a big increase on unemployment rate, and we very well know that. If we look at the next section beside that, you see our average weekly wages. For Nueces County, it's $982 weekly average. At the very bottom, you'll see a 12-month percentage change in employment. You see a very large decrease in May of 2020 because of where we're at in the COVID-related expenses. On B5, you'll see our U.S. economy is kind of seeing some result of the COVID-19 with a very large drop in balance. Combination of food services decreased by 26.8% nationally. Finance and insurance also saw a decrease of 9%. And others we saw is definitely decreases for the value. The Texas economy didn't hold any better. We also saw some decreases in job declines of 3.2%, 13.5% in unemployment rate, and we saw 13% increase in other values. Now, what are we trying to do for fiscal year 2020 with our budget considerations? The Nueces County Commissioner Court must adopt a budget that will establish the local spending limit for 2021. Due to several revenue caps, restrictions of issuance of debt, obligation, and unexpected impact of both COVID-19 and Hurricane Hannah, the Commissioner Court must take in consideration cost drivers and budget priorities with current economic impact. Now, B6, we kind of go over some highlights, some budget challenges, and then we go some stuff that occurred during mid-year that is already something we have to account for in the budget. For adopting the highlights, we do currently have a continuous pay increase of last year, approximately 273 employees. For this year, there's only 164 employees. Again, we do have a law enforcement collective bargaining agreement and labor agreement that we had to adjust for. And prior year, we had several increases for county court law judges, and we had that living wage increase. For our challenges this year, approved mid-year budget projections that we'll talk about in a minute, because we have created some new positions and we did some salary classification during mid-year that must be addressed for this particular court, or budget, excuse me. We have a continued pay increase of 164 employees, and we'll get to that value here in a minute. Luckily, our retirement plan, we saw a decrease in the interest, the rate for retirement from 14.24 to 13.8%. That number will need to be brought before court for approval, and that does represent a reduction in retirement costs of around $182,000. Again, we saw the law enforcement salary adjustments because of our collective bargaining agreement. We are proposing a few new positions, and we'll get those in a few sections. And there are some small reclassifications that we're also putting in. Now we go to what was done during the mid-year of 2020 for budget that needed to be addressed again. As you see here, Commissioner Court approved on November the 20th, the reclassification and or creation of the following positions. County Library position, pay group 31 to pay group 32 was approved. Youth Literacy position from pay group 23 to pay group 20, which was a decrease to cover the library position. We did include a new clerk. We did a new full-time senior autopsy professional there. On January 22nd, the court also approved the reclassification and creation of the following positions. Senior clerk admin, pay group 17 to admin secretary 2, pay group in department 5200. They deleted the collection clerk and in 1180, which is the county clerk's collection, and however created a new position as election clerk, a little bit higher of a pay group in department 1190, which is our elections division. Secretary 2 position group to executive secretary in 1160, again, that is the county clerk.
What's the senior admin clerk?
Senior what?
Senior admin clerk? What is that? What is your?
Trying to see where.
5,200, the first item.
Oh, very, 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 okay. Senior admin clerk position, that 5200 is, what department is 5200? Is that 1119? I know, is that 911?
911.
We had a senior admin clerk in our 911 mapping. It's not a 911 clerk. They moved it from a senior admin clerk, which is a little bit higher than our senior clerk 2 position. And they transferred it to a admin secretary 2 position, which is a little bit higher, 17 to 19. It wasn't a large increase in salary. That group right there, from there to there, is only about $800. But from that point in time, they were a senior admin clerk, and we only have a few of those throughout the county. And they just redid that to a secretary 2 position in 911 mapping.
911 mapping. What? I don't understand that mapping. What's the mapping?
Back when we first started this, we had to have someone it's under Juan's authority. It's someone that puts in under our GIS locations where in the county you'll have an address. Well, they need to know where that address was on roads and bridges and stuff. So we had actually had someone map the direction of, so if 911 got a call, they knew where to go. Because some of the most rural areas, they didn't have a street address or street names. They said this position where that mapping directed them where to go. And that mapping is inputted into the Metrocom and stuff so they know where the streets were. On B7, we talk about the approval on February the 12th. I won't go through each of them separately. We have a better detail later. On the March the 18th, 2020, there was a few van drivers for Edwards Senior Community Services that were done. And on June the 10th, just recently, there was a few, we deleted a second assistant for the DA. We deleted 1 felony 2 position. However, we created felony 5, created an executive secretary pay group, and pardon me, created a legal secretary. You'll see the little box below shows the total impact for these corrections that were done mid-year that we now have to address is $193,845 for the general fund, $83,994 for the special revenue. I'm sorry, that total can't be right. It can't be 303 because 190, and that doesn't seem right. But I mean, it is. Yeah, it's 303,000.
Yeah, it's 5 plus 4 isn't 6.
Well, that's right. That number's wrong. So we'll get that fixed.
Just for clarification, what number is wrong?
On B7, you'll see a little box there, and it says fund estimated fiscal impact. You'll see general fund, special revenue funds.
Right,
You'll see 193,845 for the general fund, 83,994 for special revenue. That total's
right.
not right.
Which number do you think is wrong?
The very bottom number.
The general?
It's 277,839.
The very bottom number, the 303,746 is incorrect.
It should be 277,839.
That's the total fiscal impact of those particular changes. 277,839, with 193,845 being the general fund. Now on B8, we go through the other changes that will be addressed this particular year. We still have the continuous pay as part of our personnel policy. That right now, that's 164 employees. And the personnel policy manual of 3.34 established this. Until the Commissioners Court changes that, we have to follow the personnel policy. And right now, the estimated fiscal impact of this 164 employees is only $164,051 for the general fund. For the retirement plan, as we said before, our retirement plan is dropping from 14.24 to 13.82. That does show a decrease in cost for this of $182,135 decrease in costs for the general fund for this decrease. And as I said, we'll be bringing this before court very soon to get this approved, so we show a reduction in our retirement plan. This is the second year of our collective bargaining agreement as provided by the Chapter 174 of the Texas Government Code. We do have a collective bargaining agreement with the Sheriff's Office as well as the Constable's Office. And that factor deals with about 295 to 300 employees. The estimated fiscal impact for this amount is $505,333 this fiscal year. Now we're going to go to new positions. Right now, there are a few new positions we are recommending. They're not set down to y'all to determine this. Now, some of them may be if we decide to do something later we'll talk about. There may be a small little cost of a few positions, because if we do the veteran cemetery, some of those positions are set to split between the general fund and the veteran cemetery. We do have a small amount of reclassifications. I'm sorry, the new positions, the fiscal impact for the general fund is $159,270, and you'll see table 3 later to provide that detail. Reclassifications, we're putting in a few reclassifications, some for the district attorneys, some for the county attorney, some from our emergency management courts, as well as some of the other small divisions. And the fiscal impact is $260,054. Now, some of these increases can be funded through additional funds we're going to be receiving from GEO. I know we'll be receiving approximately $400,000 to $500,000 more each year, and that money can be used to set aside to pay for this, as well as other items we do decide. Now, we want to identify a few budget matters that may.
How much was it?
How much was it?
Pardon?
How much was it?
For what?
For GEO.
We're going to probably increase by $500,000.
Okay.
Roughly. It depends on the population. It could be $200,000 to $300,000, but it could be more than $400,000 to $500,000. So we're going to see what the population is for our contract with. We are going to get higher rates, so we know there's going to be more money. So we're expecting anywhere from $350,000 to $450,000.
Okay, thank you.
What was the question, Dale?
They're asking about the additional money coming in from the GEO, our present contract. I said roughly it's going to be about, we're estimating $350,000 to $450,000, but it could be as high as $500,000.
So Commissioner Gonzalez, obviously it depends on the census, the population, but it's a high-low. So anywhere from, Dale says 350 all the way to 700,000,
Exactly.
depending on the census.
And the way the census has been, we'll probably see at least $450,000 or more. I don't think it'd be less than that. Now, a few of identifications, a few items that we're going to talk about budget challenges that were not a theoretically budget challenge because of the way it works. I know we've been talking about the veteran cemetery, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. There shouldn't be the entire cemetery should not have a impact on the county, since the GLO will be paying for that. However, there are some positions that my office needs, purchasing needs, our legal aid, our legal department needs to make sure we function this. And so we're proposing a little bit of additional staff. And for my office, I would be willing to split one of my positions with the Veteran Cemetery where at least they pay 50% and we could be higher if we so choose. Same thing with our county attorney. Our purchasing agent has said that they'll probably need a new buyer for this particular court. How theirs is going to be a little bit greater, where the Veteran Cemetery will pay 75% of the cost, and the county would only pay the 25%. And we are creating a new part-time position in the Veteran Cemetery. Will be no impact on the general fund. 100% of that cost will be paid for by the Veteran Cemetery. As we know, we created the Nueces County Development Commissions. We do have a little bit of fiscal impact by a transfer, a small amount that y'all approved of $50,000 from the general fund. The rest will be coming out of 1379, which is Family Protection Services. We're working with Teresa Tyner and the judge on that to make sure the funding portion is right. As you know, we have a very big fiscal impact for COVID-19. We should be getting money back from CARES Act as well as the FEMA to cover the cost for that, as well as some of the costs we have for Hurricane Hannah, because we know we got very devastated on our coastal shores where we lost the front end of the Bobble Pier, which means that pier is now pretty much shut down until it's either repaired or parts of it are found structurally sound. And that pier brings in $350,000 a year in revenue. So when we get to Fund 18, we'll have to readdress how we do Fund 18, because they will need more money from the general fund to operate because of the loss of $300,000 to $400,000 from the pier. We are creating a fire marshal upstairs. We will be doing that. Right now, we have the compensation study that's going on. We don't have any results of that yet. As y'all know, our property and windstorm insurance is significantly increased. We did have the funding in our our self-insurance funds to pay for this. However, now we need to get the money into the the self-insurance funds to cover it for next fiscal year. So there is a significant increase this year for several of the departments to cover that cost. We have a few small staffing increases that we talked about before. There are a few more new unfunded or underfunded mandates. And the county's response to natural disasters, as we've seen with Hurricane Hannah as well as COVID-19, and hopefully we have no more this year, but we're just the beginning of hurricane season, and we have to keep an eye on what's going on.
You said the marshals is gonna be this year?
Pardon that?
The marshal's gonna be added on for this budget?
Yes. We should see, we've already signed the contract, we've already approved the new rates. We should start seeing money soon.
How much are we looking at
Well, like I said, for next year, it'll be anywhere from $450,000 to $750,000.
for the marshal?
But this year, since they just started, you won't see a big increase. But we might see a little bit more. Normally, our transfer from the GEO fund to the general fund is 1.2.
I'm talking about the marshal, marshal.
He wanted to pay for the
Sorry,
marshal.
sorry,
Is it
fire
gonna
marshal.
be added on this year?
Y'all approved it this year. I know HR is looking at trying to hire someone for the marshal services. However, there's not a budget for this year. We would have to do some budget change orders should one get approved. Regardless, we have to still fund it for next year.
For this coming budget,
Yes.
so.
If it's hired this year, we would have to do some budget change orders and move some money around to cover that cost because it was not originally budgeted.
I mean, but at October the first budget, we're okay.
Once for October 1st, this needs to be added to the budget for that, yes.
How much are we looking at for the marshal?
I've got some results here a little bit later. I can answer that real quick. If you look up at B22, at the very bottom, you'll see the fire marshal. We're estimating a cost with the salaries and all the other equipment we might need, $166,000.
Dale?
Yes.
For the salaries, for the fire marshal, it's not correct. It should be $60,486 plus 30.
This was done before we had the latest update, so that's why they're a little bit lower.
How much is it?
But the pay is $73,563, and it
Okay.
corresponds with the other pages. This page didn't get
73,553?
updated.
73,553?
Right, the salary itself is gonna be $60,486. Benefits is $13,077, so the total salaries plus benefits is $73,563. So the net at the bottom is 155,813.
When what?
155,813.
Can't be 155, we're already 166. And you're increasing the salaries.
Okay, let me see.
That's another, I'm gonna show another $20,000, so I'm at 186.
Well, the issue was, is that
What
it
were your
wasn't
picks?
increased to salary, but a decrease to benefits, so you
Oh,
all
one-
had it as salaries and employees' benefits of about 84,000, and now it's 73.
Yeah.
So that's where you get the 155 versus the 166, but well, let's just get it updated.
Yes, we
Let's
will.
not worry about it right
We
this
will.
second, but table number 7 will get updated for everybody.
Yes.
It's just, I guess it got caught in the,
It got caught in the time
I'm not
where,
sure.
depending on when we put this book together and when the last updates were, it just got, there's some small changes. So
Right.
We'll make sure it gets
But-
updated.
but for Commissioner Gonzalez's, I
Between
think he's
150
just
to
really
160,
looking
yes.
at the salary, so that's $60,000 salary and approximately $13,000 benefits for his, I think he's writing notes, and we'll get him the complete table, updated tomorrow or later today.
Now, Teresa, that's assuming no health insurance?
That's just what's on your new position schedule, the 13K, that's what you put
But the
in.
31 included health insurance.
So you're gonna change the new position schedule then? Because the new position schedule is showing 13.
Because new positions don't include some of the cost, because health insurance is not a number derived by health insurance, by salaries. Health insurance is by whether they choose or not. So we'll make sure we'll get it right.
Okay.
Okay, as we saw, that we're gonna talk about Veterans Cemetery, and Veterans Cemetery is also back on B 21. You'll see the Veterans Cemetery, the salaries, the benefits, all the costs for that of $1,042,985. We're gonna ask them for $1,060,000, so we're gonna ask for a little bit more than our cost. You have the breakdown of the salaries at the very bottom. You'll see the last three, and this is also missing that part-time position I talked about.
It's there, senior clerk 2,
Oh,
part-time.
yeah, that's right.
29.
Because that's not split. That's right.
It's 100%.
So you see the budget accountant, the senior buyer, as well as the county attorney, they're either 50 split or a 75-25 split with some of the costs coming to the general fund, but not a significant amount. We're still working on with the GLO to get the balances there. On B10, you'll see we've initiated the Nueces County Development Commission. The county did announce on January the 8th of the creation of this balance. We did receive funds from the port of original $12,000, and plus we also agreed and got receipt of $90,000 for $102,000 for this first fiscal year. And those installments were $18,000 to cover this. Now for next fiscal year, we'll also have to ask every year from the port for this additional $9,000. We're gonna transfer a small amount from the general fund for operations of $50,000 that y'all agreed. As we said, some of the money coming from a special revenue fund for family protection, as well as to operate this department. And I just know that you'll be receiving a notification in the next court. I don't believe it's gonna be on the 5th, but the following court, we just received a large sum of a donation for this, and all the donations will be going for this, and we'll continue to put this in as we has. Now we know COVID-19 is an ongoing event. Who knows? We don't really know when it'll stop. Right now, this is the cost that we had as of July 29th. Total cost that the county has spent is $1.98 million. I know I just put in some other costs, another $100,000 to $150,000, so that's already over $2 million probably today. We know we're working with Grants Division to get some money from the CARES Act reimbursement, as well as some funds from the Attorney General's office, as well as we put in a significant claim with the city to get the CARES Act for us. So we should hopefully get most of this reimbursed and working on the stuff that is. Now, these expenses did not come from the general fund. These expenses, except for the overtime cost, did come from several departments, including the general fund. But majority of this other cost, the P cards, the stores inventory, the purchasing department, any of these costs that we have. We're in Fund 13, and that's where the revenue is going to be coming in later on. And we know that the money from the city of the 7.18 million, which you'll see on 811, is where we plan to get the money from, and we'll make sure that goes to there and whatever it costs for. And that's where we see the costs coming in from different sources. As we saw, coronavirus emergency supplemental fundings of $58,080. We've already received $166,133 of our Corona's Aid, Relief, and Economic Security of the CARES Act. Total amount is $830. We received the $166 already. It was deposited on May the 5th. We're about ready to bring something to you for the Help America Vote Act, which is a grant. This does require a 20% match from the county, and we'll be bringing that to you very soon. We also have the other one I said that goes to the Council of Governments of $637,000, and we're working with grants to make sure we have the proper budget stuff and the information they need for that. And we just sent a request over to the city for $7.18 million, 40% of this allocation that came from TDM for this. Now, we know we did have a Hurricane Hannah come through, is the category
Dale.
1. Yes.
The total for all those funds that we could get in is $9,025,530 to offset the COVID costs.
And what we'll have backup for that is that includes some of our lost revenue as well as some of the costs, because we're in the process of doing some other costs, different COVID sites, different training, different testing sites we might have, and so our expenses are definitely going to go up, and this will cover the cost for that. Hurricane Hannah was a category 1. It did go south of us. However, we saw the huge storm surge that came into the county and pretty much destroyed coastal parks. It destroyed the pier, the teeth part of the Balboa Pier. And I know the judge and Scott and the commissioners are also working on getting some inspection to see whether the entire pier, how structurally sound it might be. And we're going to try to work as fast as we can to try to get this thing rebuilt, because I said this thing loses $300,000 to $400,000 a year in revenue just from the pier. We need to get that back running. But right now, the total cost that we've expended so far, and most of it is salary cost, of $7,059. I know that's going to be going up because we just received some activity logs and some other cost sheets from this, and so that number is definitely will be increasing. As I said, the fire marshal on October the 30th, the Commissioner Court did create the position, but it hasn't been hired yet. However, we will be bringing this to court, and it needs to be funded for next fiscal year. And as we said, Table 7 provides the information, but it will be updated to be correctly stated what it is. We know we're currently working on a compensation study. I don't have that information available. I know they're working with HR on several items on that. So that might have to come from HR where they're at on that particular progress. On B12, we know that our insurance rates went very, very high. Our windstorm rate went up at least $800,000 from prior fiscal year. We did have the money in our self-insurance funds to pay for it. However, now the self-insurance funds need to be reinstated to get their values back to where they are, so we can provide this funding next year. And the cost, it did go up a little bit because we added the law enforcement side of it. So our total next year cost for our insurance will be right at around $2 million if we add everything together. Now, the key issue that's very important for all of us is where do we stand in reserves? For our for our general fund reserves, as you see a little chart below, for 2019, our federal reserve, our fund balance was $22,694,608, which was 24.1% of the budgeted revenue and transfers. You see it's slightly below the 25%, which is our goal. And we'll see when we get to the numbers a little bit later in CD&E, we expect that to continue going up a little bit, and that's very good. Now we're going to.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Ernest had a question, Dale.
Yes.
Hold, please. Go ahead, Ernest.
Okay, on your updated sheet K1, are you still projecting 24.4 on the fund balance for 9/30/20?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought some of the costs for this year would bring that down. Just a question.
Well, when we get to the description of the cost, when we get to a little bit later on, you'll see that, yeah, some of our revenues did go down. However, some of our costs did go down. For example, the courts did shut down, so we hadn't had to have any jury the last 3 or 4 months. And jury expenses, as y'all all know, is pretty expensive. So we didn't have that cost. We have also some reduction in some other costs that we'll get to when we get that, and you'll see that as we get to tab D and E.
Okay.
So Dale, just for clarification, the 23,549 represents the 25%, is that correct?
That's correct. For
And so
2019,
we're
that's correct.
currently, I'm sorry?
I think that's for 19, right?
Right, that's for 19, but I don't have 2020 on this bar chart, but that's what you're referring to, Ernest, that instead
Yes,
of
ma'am.
24.1%, the projection for 9/30/20 is 24.4%, not including if we were to supplement $2 million from the CARES Act. Let's just pretend our burn rate stops at 1.9, or just call it 2 million, and you were able to replenish that. That number of 24.4 would certainly go up, as would our cash reserves. Is that correct?
No, because the COVID expenses are not in the general fund.
Yeah,
COVID
you said
expenses
some
are in
of them
Fund
were, but
13.
not all.
The only
Fund
thing, the only
13,
thing that's
okay.
in general fund is the salaries, and that's $130,000 overtime.
Got it. Okay, so not very much of it. Okay, fair enough. Okay,
Like,
please
like
continue.
Ernest was saying, if you
Can I-
turn to.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can I ask a question, Dale?
Yes, go ahead.
So in looking at some of these, I'm going backwards a little bit, and I apologize because I just stepped out, go to the bathroom, to be real honest. So on the fire marshal,
Yes,
back on B-22,
yes.
in trying to just look at ways for this year only, based on what I think the cost situation we're in and the pandemic, and trying to be cognizant of my position in regards to the tax rate, would it be just something for consideration for a year only to, again, give us some break, to not institute the entire budget this year, but to maybe designate someone, give them a stipend so that they still did it, had extra responsibilities, and maybe then look at this full budget for the next budget? Again, I'm just trying to be creative. I'm just throwing things out there. And I don't, it's more just of a thought. I don't necessarily need someone to say they'd like it or don't like it. I'm just throwing it out as a thought for, practical purposes.
Yes, Commissioner, we talked with Melissa, as well as some of the fire chiefs in the area. If we do hire a fire marshal, we were pretty much required to get all the bunker gear, all the equipment that they need to perform their tasks. And that's why you see a lot of these increases in supplies and utilities and other costs they might have. We'd have to give them a truck to be able to go around with. The truck can be leased, so that's not a big cost. But some of the stuff that the equipment they use and the clothing they have is very expensive clothing. But they would have to have it to be able to go into the areas they need to do for the fire. So should we hire a fire marshal, it would require this additional increase.
And that's a reasonable explanation, Dale, and I appreciate that. That would just be something that I would maybe look at as a common theme throughout this, just if there are things that, and I'm not trying to kick the can down the road. I totally understand we need a fire marshal. I totally agree with the concept. I'm just looking at ways, if there are ways to kick the can down the road a little bit, but not hurt our services at the same time. I know that sometimes is hard to do, but if there's ways like that, when we're going back through this, we can look at it, because again, I do think any cost savings we could have during this year, and this is any time, but this is a unique year, and trying to find everything I can to avoid raising taxes and I know this court is very interested in that too, would be helpful. So if when y'all are going back through this, you could look at some of that, so I don't have to raise it every single time on every category that comes up, that would be great. So that's it, just a general comment. I appreciate it.
What we'll do is we'll when we get a chance to talk to Melissa, when we have the opportunity, we can meet with her and we can bring in the fire chiefs that help us in the EOC to determine, are we required to have all the equipment, or can we have a small amount of some of the equipment? But we'll definitely look at those figures to limit the cost as much as we can.
Capital outlay,
I get capital outlay as a different category,
Yeah.
and that doesn't play into the tax rate as much as operating services and stuff like that. But just again, I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it.
the capital outlay could probably be absorbed in 1900.
What capital outlay will they need?
You have 72.5 for capital outlay on here.
Just to address
was
the
for-
same
that's for a
subject
truck.
matter, and I recognize that it's already been pointed out in previous courts that the reimbursement that you can receive from the state through TDM regarding emergency management personnel has been maxed out, but those are also based on prehistoric numbers and issues for Nueces County. And there is an opportunity to go back to TDM to ask for a greater allowance, allowing for a portion of that personnel cost, i.e. the salary of a future fire marshal, to be included as part of our reimbursement. In addition, if your fire marshal is also a trained paramedic, then theoretically, for the CARES Act, there might be some dollars that could be attributable to his role as we continue our COVID-19 response into this year, this fiscal year, and next year. Similarly, the way firefighters are allowed to receive CARES Act reimbursement for their role in COVID-19 response. Therefore, you could have a fire marshal do traditional arson investigation and fire marshal duties, but also morph into emergency management duties like COVID-19 testing, very much the way Chief Rocha and his entire operation runs that too. So there are many ways to look at it, and we will drill down on it today, as you suggested, is a cursory look, a brief look, and then we will try to present options that give you a better way to look at it, so that there are not only cost savings, but there's collateralization of duties, and furthermore, granting opportunities. So I think on the fire marshal, you're going to see that one is probably not one to pick on, because it absolutely has lots of upward mobility. There might be others, but that one's going to wind up paying dividends, both fiscally and physically for people. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to just end with is that we glossed over it while you were out, but it was the compensation study. I just wanted to alert the court that Korn Ferry has finished, and they will be on an upcoming agenda to present to you. But more importantly, I thought since we were going through this process, even though they haven't presented, you would appreciate having their findings sent to you in advance. And if it helps you through this budget process, so be looking for those to arrive in your inbox today through Tyner. I asked Julie over the weekend to get those to you. So you will see Korn Ferry's compensation review. And I'll give you a trailer. It's everything you think it is, in the sense of there's no, they have confirmed that we are a low-paying county across the board and are nowhere close to where we should be. That's the trailer. There are pieces of it that there's always some good, and there's always some really off-the-wall not so good. But in general, that's the theme. And it's really impressive to see this market study done, because up until now, we've asked individual department heads to go do their own research and not have a validating third party. And so I think you're going to see this Korn Ferry study as an important one. So anyway, that's the only thing I wanted to mention. And so when we left off, Dale, you were just finishing with reserve levels, and we were
Yes.
on B12.
On B12, we're going to get to the point where the most important part of the discussion is tax rates.
Correct. Go ahead.
Senate Bill 2, as you know, made significant changes to the process the county uses to calculate the rate and adopt the tax rate. They changed some terms, and we'll talk about the new terms. The old term used to be effective tax rate, which is now you'll hear the no new revenue tax rate. You used to have a effective maintenance operations rate that it will now be called the no new revenue maintenance and operation tax rate. And your rollback rate is now the voter approved tax rate. The
What
county.
page are you, Dale? I'm sorry.
Yes,
B13.
B13.
E13?
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Now for the counties, our voters approved rate by the tax code is 3.5% unless there is an emergency situation where we can calculate numbers, not necessarily approved numbers, but calculate numbers above that, which y'all did allow us to do. But all it is a calculation, is nothing more. The hospital district is a special taxing unit that can go up to the normal 8% tax rate. Now, on page B14, you'll see, can COVID-19 affect market value? Yes, it can, but however, the values that we're talking about today were approved and certified from valuations that came in as of January the 1st, 2020. So you may not see any adjustments till next year, which is the 2021 year. When they redo the evaluations for that, you may see COVID-19 have a drastic effect next year. We'll have to see that when that numbers come. So all the numbers we're talking about now is for what we're talking about that was approved and the valuations of January 1st, 2020, the numbers. As you see, a history of our tax rates from 2010 to 2019. It has been going down slightly, and you'll see that our last rate for the county and the road fund is 0.3110588. I believe that's the total. Now, the next few slides, B15 through B17, shows you your mid-year positions that we talked about earlier, that these are items that y'all already took action on and changed. So these are now new level salary positions. However, we need to make sure the budget is now takes these into consideration. So there are some slight increases that these were already done, and we just need to get the balances there. As you see, each one of them will show you what is done for each one of them, including our special revenue fund. On B18, the very important pages are retirement. Our retirement from prior year to current year is going down $182,134.85. I don't know if y'all remember, but last year we had a $200,000 or $300,000 increase because the rate went as high as it is. As you see, our rate at the beginning of the year was 14.34, and now it's going down to 13.82. So we're seeing a $182,000 decrease in those rates. So that's very promising to see, and we'll bring those balances to you by quarter. You see the general fund is $149,735. The other funds out their increase. So the total reduction in retirement is $182,134. We are proposing a few new positions on B19. Now, the very top, the one for the road and bridge and coastal parks, that pretty much is a wash when what's being proposed as a deleted position down the very bottom. You'll see, Go Mesa Fund, the natural resource specialist was funded there. With agreement with Scott and with Juan, we're going to be moving that to coastal parks and road funds. So that's really a zero effect of those two positions. It's really one position, but split equally. 40% for the road and bridge, 60% for the coastal parks. And this particular position will help write permits for both coastal parks as well as dune permits for road and bridge and other stuff that they might need. It's a very, very important position. And this is the position of the one that was already there that did pass away recently. So we're going to be looking at getting this, but this will now be changing from its funding source, but they're really not of an impact. The next four, the county attorney, the county auditor, and the purchasing agent, are going to be split if we do the veteran cemetery. If we do the veteran cemetery, because of the reporting requirements that I need to have done, I need another person to do quarterly reports to GLO, budget reports for all this budget stuff. Purchasing agent needs another buyer to cover just the cost for what's being done there. Now, the district attorney has also asked for a attorney level 1 position in intake. They're willing to deplete the chief prosecutor. So again, that is a technical wash for that. The only two that really have no offset, as we said before, is the JP 2-1 for a court clerk of 1 position, as well as the fire marshal that we need to now funding for. So we do have some positions here, but a majority of this is going to be funded by some depletions. On B20 shows you what we're submitting as possible recommended reclassifications on a few other items we have, and we'd be willing to change any of these that have, but as we said earlier, some of these costs for the DA and for the county attorney can be covered by our GO contract with the U.S. Marshal Service of additional $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 additional revenue can cover these particular reclassifications. So we won't need taxes to cover these items. The rest is just summaries of table 5, 6, and 7. And we will be replacing table 7 for its corrected information. As we said, the capital outlay should not be there because we will not be needing to buy a vehicle for that. We'll be using our current agreement with Enterprise to lease a vehicle, so that won't be $72,000 for there. It'll only be a few thousand, not $72,000. So we'll make those modifications for have. That is theoretically our proposed budget document at the moment. We'll, like I said, we'll make the necessary changes and get those to you soon, but I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have before we begin further.
Yeah, this is a good time to reflect on what I think is a great summary of the proposed budget. There's still a lot of nuances I know you're probably going to want to drill down on, but again, if you wouldn't mind, today is a good day to get your overview, to let things run smoothly so you can get sort of the whole picture from 30,000 feet. It might be good to let Dale go on to the next piece of it, but I would like to stop, make sure there are no questions regarding what the material that we've just covered. Are there any questions at this time that if you would help me by signaling, I can mute myself and we can unmute you? Okay. Again, I just want to bring forth on the veteran cemetery, in case you have any concerns, the way we've worked the budget is to make certain that we would not fall short. That means that not only have we found ways to cross-collateralize to help our county, there are perks here. It's not like I want to be a do-gooder. That's certainly my goal, is to be a part of this great honor tradition of being the steward of veteran cemeteries in Texas. We would be one of only 4. But more importantly, we would make certain that the positions actually assist our county, because by having 50% of an auditor work on cemetery and being able to pay for that person, it also helps Dale, with that personnel add-on. Same thing with I think there's a county attorney and some of the other procurement division that would also be sharing in this role. So HR as well. So anyway, I want to make sure that you know that we built this budget, been working on it for a ridiculous amount of time to try to make sure that we covered all our bases, that the contract would protect us, and that we would be able to not necessarily profiteer, but we would not lose money, and we would be enhanced by the process so that our human capital was also being given credit in our budget. So I don't want you to feel like this is a gift or we're spending our people's time on it. No, everybody that's working on it will be paid for it, and they will be including benefits. It was all calculated in, including longevity. We went through great pains to create a budget that could work for Nueces County, assist Nueces County in their personnel, but also address all of the GLO's requirements. So
Judge,
anyway,
do you have a question on that one? Would the, and I don't know who the question's for, Dale, you or Laura, whoever, can you, not trying to be completely untrustworthy of the state government, but can there be some sort of reverter clause or something of that nature that says if they stop, funding it, because we can't afford it. I'm with you. We all want to be do-gooders and make sure this continues on, but this was a state cemetery and they did this. And so is there the ability not only to build it into the budget, but have some sort of reverter clause in it that says if they stop funding it, then they've got to take it back over?
Yeah, I think you'll be pleased with the contract. I'll let Laura send you a copy of it and we can really look at the language that's pertinent. But just so you know, these cemeteries are funded actually by the national level, veteran cemeteries. So I always feel confident that the state is really protected. Their money's protected. They probably feel the same way about the feds. So we would have to have a complete collapse of government, I think, for them not to fund. Now, there might be some, auditing processes if we were to do something incorrect, but that's fair. But
Sure.
overall, I feel very good that the structure comes from the feds and the majority of the money as well. And so I feel very strongly the Veterans Land Board, which has existed for, oh my gosh, generations. This is probably the one place I might say I have a lot of confidence in the state. But having said that, when we really get to that point of we're going to bring it to court, I think it needs its own workshop so that Laura can go over the contract and that Eric Brown from the state comes and sits with us and you get to ask him all those good questions. He's not a lawyer, but he's the gentleman that runs the cemeteries, but they'll bring their their general counsel. I can't remember Caleb's last name, but just so that we can ask all those questions publicly to kind of air it out. But the contract looks real airtight and nothing's been done yet, but it would look good if we were to sign the one that we have.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Yes, and on this budget, I worked with, Tyner had provided me several years of budget actual reports that they got from their current provider. So I was able to put those values together to come up with this budget. If you look at B21, you'll see other services and charges. I've increased that other services and charges by adding a 10% administrative fee cost, which means that they will pay us to do the services we have that won't be funded through the Veteran Cemetery. For example, these are now all county employees, so we have to have HR functioning to do that. My staff as well as purchasing, as well as bringing items before the court here to hear some stuff. So we put in a $100,000 administrative cost fee on top of the other part of the budget. So they reimburse us for some of the costs that can't be directly identified to this event. So that's where you'll see a little bit of cost of that. So I'm trying to protect the county as well.
Yeah, y'all did a great job on that. So if there's no other, as they say, let's get to the fun part.
Well, I got
Dale, do you want to go ahead and tell us where you'd like to go now?
Commissioner Gonzalez
Would you
has a
like to
question.
do the tax rate now, or how would you like to take us?
Commissioner Gonzalez has a question.
I
Go
have a
ahead.
question for Dale. On the reclassification, Dale, table 4, let me go back a little bit. This was actually the ones that were pulled out of the ones everybody was submitted.
Yes.
So I know I submitted one for my system, so what's the deal here?
You and Commissioner Myers did submit some requests. We've worked with this with HR as well. Because of the position they're in, there's 5 other employees that would qualify for that. And we just don't know the direction of what the other commissioners would like to do, as well as the judge and Tyner's office, to see if they want to include an increase in salary for them.
What 5
We
other-
can.
What 5 other employees you talking about?
Well, each of the commissioners have an assistant, so that's 4 there. Then the judge has a similar position, as well as Margaret in Tyner's office. They're similar position title-wise.
Well, maybe we should consider, because, I have an assistant that's been here 20 years, and because of us, they don't get raises, because we don't get them. I don't think it's fair. I don't think, she has, she's like everybody else, bills to pay and everything else to do, and, so I think it's time this year around to really look at that, because, and they're essential employees, because they know a lot of stuff is going on here. They help new employees when they come in, and, we can use them and all that, and then we don't want to take care of them. And that's been my problem, and I know in your reclassifications from last year, I think there's 1 there missing, or 2 missing, that they're reclassified, but they're not on the list. So I need to go back and find out, and I think you might be able to have those, but I think that I don't know how Mr. Martin feels, but, I submitted that because, I've been here almost 10 years, and every 10 years, we say no because there are assistants.
Dale, can we look and see what it would cost?
I cannot hear a word that's being said. Commissioner, are you using your microphone?
I'm right here on top of it.
Okay,
He was asking for on the
Well-
reclassification, under the request of the reclassification, Commissioner Gonzalez and Commissioner Motters put in a request for their court administrator position to be a reclassified up position. However, there's the other three that would be qualified, which would be one for Commissioner Chesney, the one for Commissioner Vaughn, as well as your assistant, as well as Margaret, that we would have to do everyone, and we just didn't get it put in the reclassification. He's asking to make sure we include that. If that's the will of the court, we can include it as a recommendation. It doesn't have to be approved, but we can definitely put it as a recommendation.
I'd like to see what it
Yes.
cost.
Yes. And it won't be that much. It's not, if I remember, it wouldn't be a very, very much of an increase.
And I think we need to update the reclassifications from last year, Dale. I mean, I think there's some
yeah,
missing.
the idea here is that you cannot just choose one or two. The idea is it has to be even across the
We
board.
understand.
That's the scenario. And that's what,
That's fine. We
that's what
understand.
Dale's saying.
And we will put that in now with, because Commissioner Vaughn's wanted to see the cost as well, so we'll put that in as a recommendation. It does not have to be approved, but we can definitely put it as a recommendation.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Dale, why don't you go ahead and continue?
First, I want to go through the budget calendar. This is a small little revision from the one you've already approved. We've been working with Teresa, been doing an extremely good job on this, working with the tax office to get some key importance. And the key importance is on C2, where you have the different, right now, there's only one hearing required, if I'm, this, one public hearing required on August the 18th, which is a Friday. I know that, no, September the 2nd is the public hearing on taxes increases for what we have. And then there's on the September 2nd, you have a public hearing. You can decide to adopt the tax rate that day if you want, but it cannot be no longer than 7 days from that date. So you see for what we have on there, we have, if we do have a hearing on tax increase, that's if we do, then we would also then, on September the 9th, meet to adopt the tax rate, which is not more than 7 days from the September 2nd. That's only been, the only change we saw from this budget calendar does now match the requirements that is set aside from the comptroller and the chapter 26 of the tax code. And so, Teresa, am I missing anything? So that's where we're at. So that's what we're going to be following to try to get everything finalized and get to you. Pardon me. For that. So that's all I have at the moment on the calendar. Now I'll give y'all a chance to look through some other stuff, but let's do the tax rates, because that is a very important item. And that is on tab P.
P, Paul?
That's from the handout, Dale?
Yes, I just recently gave y'all a new version to put in your book.
So Judge, did you get the new, an email with an updated P this morning?
I haven't looked because I've been on this Zoom, but I've got the one that you printed for me and was brought to my home this morning.
There's another update, and Sabra was gonna email it to you.
All it was
Okay.
was just change the tax rate from 19 to
just-
20. So.
Oh,
Is it
Okay.
significant
No,
or?
all it was to change it to the year from 19 to 20.
oh, okay,
Yeah, I'm good, yeah. I'll just work from this copy.
okay.
Okay, P1 shows us our comparison of our net taxable value. I won't go through each of them separate. I'll only go through the one that's the most important, which is our general fund. And our general fund does include our tax funds. For 2019, you see our certified value was $31,532,189,048. For tax year 2020, you see that now is $31,903,136,772,000. That is an increase of $370,905,000 $47,724, or an increase of 1.1%, 1.18%.
Dale, help me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow you,
Me too.
and I think I've got the right P1, because I think we've had a couple of them, so what page are you on P?
P1,
Sorry.
P1.
P1, and you're set, then maybe I don't have the right one.
P1.
So tell me that number again for the,
The certified
General fund?
value, the certified value for 2020 should be 31,903,136,772 for tax year 2020.
for the general fund?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And maybe, I don't know if this, maybe I don't have the new one, this, mine says 31,398, is that the old one? Or am I just looking at the wrong number on here, I'm sorry.
398, where's 398?
It's the second column.
Right, second column, I'm looking at tax year, and then total net taxable value, maybe I'm not looking at the right column.
I'm doing the very, very, very top, the tax value from the certified appraisal district, I'm going down each one separately, so yeah, your net taxable value would be the bottom number, but I'm going to the very top.
31.
That's the one that came out this morning, Dale.
31,903.
Commissioner, isn't he?
I think it's, okay, keep going, I'll look, but I thought I printed the one you sent me this morning, so let me just make sure I printed that, but go ahead, I'll stay up,
Well, the one in your book should be exactly the same as the one we sent to you, it just said that the one for the general fund, they had, both of them said tax year 2019, the very top, and that's the only thing that was the difference.
Okay, I've got the one that you the one I printed is the one you sent me at 9:18 this morning, so
Yes,
if that's the right one, then keep going, I'll catch up.
it should be, let me make sure that that's. Yeah, it should be the same. So, if we do the rolling railroad, which is a railroad stock that this money, this one is valued by the comptroller. For 2019, they had $12,471,110 valuation. There was a slight decrease this fiscal year of $11,410,612, which is a reduction of $1,060,498, or a negative 8.5% decrease. Here's a property under protest, which means these are still properties being evaluated from the ARB. Last year, there was $450,622,223. For 2020, we have $1,401,678,764, an increase of $951,056,541. That's a 211% increase.
Good gosh.
A lot of people have.
Excuse me, this is, for the clarification, the court, this is primarily coming from three major resources, and that's Valero, Flint Hills, and CC Polymers.
Now, the last value here is our tax ceiling, that there are several things that does this tax ceiling, that last year was $1,785,284,206. This year is $1,918,036,634, an increase of $132,752,428, an increase of 7.44%. Now, the net taxable value is where we generate our funds from. In 2019, the net taxable value was $30,209,998,175. Currently, this fiscal year, the net taxable value is $31,398,189,514, an increase of $1,188,191,399, or the key important value of increase from last year to this year is 3.93% increase in value.
Dale, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay, so, the judge mentioned, three big, properties, Valero, CC Polymer, and Flint Hills. Do we know the dollar amount of what they're protesting?
I don't have that information. It's a significant amount if we're talking $1.4 billion worth of value under protest. I think we've, last few years, we had Flint Hills and Valero as a contingent appropriations that on our funds of around $2 to $2.5 million, and we've been told not to change that, so we're not requesting reducing that, so it can be anywhere from $2 to $3 million possibly.
And the CC Polymers, who is that now? I know that was a name change, but is that,
CC Polymer used to be
That's-
M&G.
That's the old M&G,
M&G? Gotcha.
John.
Okay, M&G.
They are now called Corpus Christi Polymers.
And I can't remember from last year, but, I mean, I remember, we had a lot of concern, and there was a lot of concerns coming from others that are impacted by these property protests. And I think they understood and realized where we're coming from, and this year is no better. Obviously, dealing with all that we're dealing with people with, unemployed or underemployed or not making as much income as they did before. And so, just as we have to be sensitive as a public taxing entity, I hope that these companies are sensitive to the need that they are part of a community. I understand they have to keep their numbers competitive when they're dealing with sister plants throughout the country or throughout the world, but they're also part of Corpus Christi. And so I hope that they will consider that when they're looking at these protests. And this is just not the year. And so I hope that they will understand that and see that. And I think that there was a lot of discussion, not in front of the public, but where they, ultimately, I think, had a better sense of duty to the community. And so I just hope that that happens again, because that is a huge increase. I mean, we're talking about, we understand individual property owners have that right. I understand that industry, should have that right too, to be competitive and to have a fair dollar amount placed on their values. But when you look at that much money, over 200% increase, which $1 billion of that is from large industry, that you could argue, that's a concern to me. So I just hope that I hope that the message gets out there. I hope the message is clear to these three big groups and any of the others who maybe are not considered that big but have, millions of dollars of property, that, we're all in this together, and we're all stuck in the same situation right now, which is not a good economic outlook. But we can only do so much when someone is protesting. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I wanted just to share that, because I definitely am concerned with that. Another question that I had, Dale, on the railroad rolling stock, is that what is that decrease for? I mean, it's $1 million less, and it's just because the value is less, or what is that?
This is definitely appraised by the appraisal, not appraisal, the comptroller from the state. They evaluate on the cargo they carry, the infrastructure they have on the ground, and the number of cars they have in the area. We can call them and find out why they saw a need to decrease them by $1,060,000. Right now, we don't have that numbers available. They just send us, here's your total numbers for the year and this, and so we can definitely reach out to them.
Okay. And the $370 million in increase for certified appraisal roll, is that just increase in valuations, or is that new developments, or what is that dollar amount?
It's kind of just a little bit, when we do a net taxable value, when we do this for our no new revenue tax rate, we exclude new growth.
Okay.
But for the taxable values, we use this to create what we are for next year, which includes new growth. But for example, if you looked at our taxable from the certified roll of $31 billion, does not include what to consider under protest. So if you include those two together, that'd be $1.2 billion worth of increase, because we know that the value under protest, that don't mean we're going to lose $1.4 billion worth of costs. It means they're still disputing what the values are going to be. And when we do our calculation, I think we use 85% of the total. And the calculations, we'll give you those calculations here very soon. So you see how we calculated it. So could we come in higher than that? Maybe. Can we come in lower than that? Possibly. It depends on how the appraisal district finds and negotiates with the taxpayers that are still disputing their property.
All right.
But before October 1, they will certify the entire roll, and then we'll bring you something that what the total numbers were.
Okay.
And I think just to be clear, Dale, I think the refineries are already, I mean, they already came down. I mean, they've come down, Commissioner, they really were up, but they've come down a lot. But, you know, I guess we could use more, right? But, you know, but I just to let you know, they did, at one point, they did come down to a minimum of 2 point whatever million.
Well, as we know, our large top 10 taxpayers in the county, majority of them are refineries or oil and gas type of businesses. And we get that question every time we have a review from when we go out for rating agencies. They ask, do you have any chance of losing any of your top 10? Well, they're refineries, so probably no.
Right.
But, you know, we always have to, because they have the right to challenge, and they're big companies and they have the legal staff to be able to do it, so they challenge when they can. But according to Ronnie, working with him and working with his staff, they don't feel us having a need to increase our contingency at this moment. So we're not increasing any contingency for the dispute for those properties at the moment.
Right.
Now I'm gonna go ahead a little bit on P. I'm not gonna do P2 just yet. I'm gonna go P3. P3 shows you how we done our calculation. As we saw before in the numbers before, those numbers are still here. You have your appraised value of the $31,903,000,000 we talked about before. The value under protest of $1.4 billion. Railroads of $11,410,000. Those three items are added together, and then we subtract out the tax ceiling. And the tax ceiling is because we the way we do our exemption as well, we have ceilings established that y'all approved. So again, our net taxable value is $31,398,189,514. We do have 3 tax increment financing. We have the Padre Island zone, we have the downtown management zone, and we just added the North Beach zone, even though North Beach is only giving us beginning balances. There are no captured value yet for that, because we just started that. So we have $537,374,000 in financing through TIFs, which was is a reduction. So our total taxable value is $30,860,814,863. Here's where we subtract out the new improvements. The new improvements for the general fund were $886,210,459, and I'll give you a breakdown of that number very soon. So to calculate our no new revenue tax, our adjusted taxable value is $29,974,604,404. Last year's adjusted levy, which includes our general fund and debt service fund, is $89,175,081. So with that, our no new revenue tax rate is 0.297502, and I'll go back to P2 in a minute to break that down. And our voter approved tax rate, and this is if we decide to use our 8%, don't mean we have to, but we did this for calculation purposes only, is 0.325426. That's how we calculated that, and you have the calculations for the farm market as well as you have the hospital district.
Hey, Dale,
Yes, sir.
I don't understand when you're saying general fund voter approved tax,
Yes.
it isn't like our voters, they approve the ability, I guess, right, to go up to whatever the legislature put the tax caps on, right? So, I mean, this isn't a voter approved, local voter approved thing. Is that what you're saying here on the when you say voter approved tax? I've seen that a couple times in the.
Well, the tax code now, it used to be called rollback rate. Now it's called the voter approved tax rate, which means if you go above that, you're required by law to have an election, whether you want one or not, you're required to. So for whatever reason it is, the tax code said that top rate is considered your voter approved rate.
Okay, so it's just a legal.
It's a terminology,
Terminology,
Brent,
okay.
just the terminology.
Just checking.
It's, that's your high-low, right there, at the very bottom, guys. You've got a high-low. Your low is 0.297502, that's your effective, now called the no new revenue. And your high is what triggers the referendum. And of course, there's also, that's not quite accurate because there's a de minimis rate that's available to you for $500,000 too. There's a lot of nuances, but we're never gonna get there, so I wouldn't worry about it, but the
Okay.
high is 0.325426.
And what is our current, I'm sorry, and I think you said it, but what's our current rate right now? The 3.1 something, I'm sorry.
311,588 when you add the general fund, debt service fund, and road fund.
I'm sorry, Dale, you said 3.11588, and then I lost you after that.
That's a combined rate for your general fund, your debt service fund, and your road fund. Your road fund is 0.003899, so the rest would be 0.307789. Did I get that right?
But, so just as a matter of make sure I'm comparing right, the high-low, as the judge described, that also includes all of the things that you just articulated?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, for P, tab P, you only stop at P5, the rest of the stuff you got input by mistake. I don't have the scenarios for you yet, so don't look at that, but let's look at P2. P2 is where we're gonna talk about where we do the calculation of the tax rates. As Commissioner Chesney was saying, our last year's 2019, 2020 adopted tax rate, which was approved, had the general fund at 0.265563, the debt service at 0.042126, the road fund at 0.003899, for a total county tax rate of 0.311588. Now, when we do the calculations for the no new revenue tax, for that particular item, the general fund's operating fund would be 0.258604. Our debt service is 0.038898, and those two combined to the 0.297502. Then you do add the road fund is 0.003769 for a total combined rate for the entire county is 0.301271. Now,
That would be, if we went with the effective tax rate, that would be what we'd have to do for 2020, 2021, correct?
that's correct.
Thank you.
Now, just to know, the debt service rate is, it would need to go a little bit higher because we need to make sure we operate that, so it'd be a little bit higher than that, but the general fund will not change. But we have to be able to fund the entire requirements, and that the no new tax for debt service only would need to be a little bit higher. It would stay at the 0.42126.
Four, two, one.
Yes, because if you look at the next two, the requirement to be fully funded is 0.46134, and we're not gonna do that high. We're gonna go back to the current rate as last year, as Noe's been talking about. So that debt service needs to be 0.042126 on the no new revenue tax, but the general fund will not be lower than 0.25, so combined will be a little bit higher than 0.30, but not significant. But that means still no new revenue, it means no new tax. As we know, we have the chapter, the Senate Bill 2, where we have the 3.5% above the no new revenue tax rate is what the voter approved rate for counties would be. And since we're in a disaster declared area, they allowed us to do calculations of 8%. Now, none of these mean we're gonna go that high. We just showed calculations, should we need to. And we show that if we do the 3.5% increase above the no new revenue tax, we're slightly higher if you do the total tax rate of 0.317719 than our current rate of 0.311588. So it's about a 0.06 increase, 0.006. So half of a cent increase.
That's a 3177?
If we go 0.317719, that's correct. That'd be slightly higher than our current adopted rate. If we have to use our 8% max, 0.329527, which I don't believe we'll ever need to get that high, but is there if we need to, is 0.329527, which is right about a penny and a half more than our current rate. Those are our tax calculations for the moment. If y'all would like to know, in tab Q, tab O, sorry, tab O. This gives you all the valuation sheets for everything. Let me go through one that's, I think is important. Is O3.
Where's that, Dale?
Tab O.
Did
O3.
you do the calculation, Dale, of what the increase would be? And I can do it myself, but and just thought maybe you might have it. If you were to stay with the adopted tax rate of 0.311588, what percentage increase that would represent?
We could definitely put something together for you, Judge. We can.
Yeah, I mean, it's just by looking at it, it's probably,
We will start putting some scenarios together at what the revenue
yeah,
would be
3 point,
at the no
maybe
new
at the
revenue tax.
3.1% increase,
rate, and then-
3.2% increase,
Yes.
somewhere around there.
We'll definitely give you a few scenarios. There are a
Yeah.
few that was attached to this, they were attached with in error because they're last year, so please don't rely on those for scenarios. We'll definitely provide you
Right.
with several coming up very soon. We should have, we probably have some for you tomorrow.
Okay.
Dale?
Yes.
I don't know about tomorrow or sometime, I guess, the next one. I also like to just bring out what it would be on the cost of living of 3%, 2.5%
Okay, I will definitely have that for you as well.
for our employees.
Now, go ahead.
What was the question?
He wanted me to bring what the cost would be if we do a cost of living increase for 2.5%,
2.5 and 3.
2.5 to 3%, and we have those values for him, and we'll provide those to court tomorrow. And that's personnel cost. I'd like to go through tab O, for tab O2 and O3. The one of the very most important is tab O3. That shows you our property type comparison with what we've done in the past, where single-family residence, multifamily residence, and then commercial property, what the increases are. As we heard before, we had $800 million worth of new property plus, and you'll see the new value for each. For single-family residence on tab O3, we'll see for single-family residence, we had $274,358,564 of new property. The value did increase for single-family residence by 4.7%. Now, that does include some of that new property in that market value. For multifamily residents, they had new value of $40,998,464, or 5% increase in total market value increase. So total residence valuations increased by 4.68%. Now we're going to talk about commercial. Commercial real property went up $117,208,124, or 2.2% increase. Industrial and manufactural real property went up $459,296,282, or 19% increase in industrial and manufacturing real property. That's where it's very important to know. Now, real property, personal property, we had $3,316,377 worth of new property, 4.4% increase. This is where it went down slightly in industrial personal property. There's still a new property of $26,709,410, a decrease of 5.2%. But their total increase for market value is 9.03%. So as you see, we did have a larger amount of increases in value for commercial property than we did have residential property. And these show you your breakdowns for your general fund. And you have the values for each behind that, as well as the same scenario for your valuation comparisons for the farm market as well as hospital district in there. I didn't do the property type comparisons because they're theoretically the same on all of them. I just did it for one. So I just wanted to show you the importance of where our valuation increases occurred.
Hey, Dale, if you
Yes.
could, and if you could, because I'm not hearing everything you're saying, mostly I am, but if you could just say when you move to a different page, what page you're on, just,
Sure.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Not a problem. That's where our valuations are in tab O. And we did our tax rate on P1.
And I don't have these particular, I don't happen to have what you're having on the screen. What tab are you under?
I'm on tab O, letter O.
Okay, got it. I got it. Okay.
They just show you your valuation comparisons on what the increases and decreases were, if there was decreases, and how the property comparison for whether residential or commercial industry on tab 003, showing the
I've already
percentages,
seen those. Okay.
the percentages for each of those, so we gave you the valuations of each one, and that's where we are for the tax rates.
Okay.
Now we're gonna go to a kind of what our budget challenges are, so we're gonna go to tab K.
Okay.
Tab K. K1 is the tab we're gonna be working on. K1. There we go, K1. Okay, this is the budget estimates for the general fund. This is only the general fund. This shows you what we estimate our revenues to be of $99,227,759, with transfers of $1,634,920, or $100,862,679. If it's missing a 9, I'll make sure that gets put. Now, as Commissioner Chesney was wondering, what would our revenue be for if we did the no new revenue tax? And this is only new property. Now, this is probably the high end of what would be on new property, but if we did the no new revenue tax, we could probably see somewhere around $2.2 million worth of additional revenue just for new property.
2.2 million just for new legit growth, and I don't mean that.
Yes, new growth, new construction, probably that
I
did
know
not exist.
exactly what you were trying to say.
No, I mean new new rooftops and commercial properties, things like that. That's not the valuation growth. The 2.2 million is the non-valuation growth. I'll say it that way.
Actually, it wouldn't be new roofs, it'd be actually new houses, new apartments, new everything. It'd be something that didn't exist before and now it does.
Okay,
That was
I'm just
800
making
something,
sure.
800 plus
You're
800 million.
you're going in and out a little bit on mine, so I apologize for asking these questions, but you're glipping a little bit on mine.
No problem. That would be the additional funds we receive for the new growth property of $2,291,000, give or take a little bit, depends on the any estimates or evaluations or any ARB that this might be under, but we foresee it'd probably be around $2.2 million of revenue from new property that we would have if we did the no new revenue tax. So that would give us $103,154,450, let's say, because for some reason the last number is missing. But now let's go to our proposed values. Our proposed expenses is $98,136,348. Transfers out $9,781,933, or $107,918,281. Now we go through the what we talk about, which was our budget challenges. We have the continuance pay of $164,051. The CBA increase for our sheriff's office and constables of $505,333. A reduction of a retirement of $182,135. Prior year position changes, which was already done, we just need to make sure the budget is reflected upon those changes, $193,845. Right now, we have limited positions and the deleted positions totaling $159,270, and that definitely can change with whatever y'all decide. Same thing for limited reclassification, that will go up a little bit if we add what Commissioner Gonzalez was asking for the clerks. So a total increase of $1,101,418, or $109,018,695, let's see. That gives us a budget balance of $18,550,425. This is budgeted only, this is not actual, this is budgeted. So if we go to K2, sorry, K2. These are our reports that we talk about, showing our actual, comparing our budget to actual in the last 3 years. If we look at the second one from the top, that's our estimated actuals. Our estimated actuals showing we had the fund balance of $22,694,609. Budgeted revenues of $96,475,940. Transfers of $1,336,424. Expenses of $86,991,367. Transfers of $9.1 million. That gives us a fund balance of $24,414,670. If you look at that one below it, it's saying, if our estimates hold, we should see that our fund balance has gone up from 22.6 to 24.4, and we're right now at 24.3% of our revenue this. Now, given the scenarios we just talked about with the budget and the estimated actuals, if we do our estimated actuals, including the no new revenue tax, and bring in that $2.2 million additional revenue, and we leave the rest the same, we would see a slight decrease in reserves from 24 to 23. That's right about $900,000, a decrease of reserves, but that's where we see that would be if we so choose the no new tax rate, and this can definitely fluctuate a little bit if we go by the projection of what our estimates are for revenue to expense. If our projections of expenses go down like they have in the past of 92, 93, 94%, that will definitely reduce the expense, and it will reduce the amount of projected losses. I'm not saying the real loss, but projected loss. That's where the balances are for what our estimates are should we do the no new tax rate. And I'll stop there for any questions.
And did you do a similar one for the 3.5%?
Not yet, Your Honor. I wanted to make sure we have what would be if we have no new revenue, then we'll definitely have some different scenarios. Once we get the scenarios coming in, we'll definitely have sheets for each of them. And I can have some ready for you tomorrow.
Okay. Are there any questions with regards, so you really just presented here everybody with one scenario, and that's the scenario all the way to, at the bottom, as they say, at the bottom, working your way up to the top, which is the no new revenue tax rate. And you can see that the story is that if you adopted the no new revenue tax rate, you would see a decline in reserves from this is all estimated, 24.3% to 22.8%. And it's about a actual dollar amount of $900,000.
Assuming no cuts and just revenue only.
Correct.
Assuming all of the things that he had on K1 were adopted.
Right, assuming those were adopted and assuming we did no cuts whatsoever.
That's, yeah, I mean, just what you see on K1. It's
Yes.
just. And of course, this also assumes that you recognize that when you lose a penny, every penny you lose millions of dollars worth of revenue. I mean, that is why you're in this scenario. That's why you go down, because you're losing an entire penny from the adopted tax rate of last year to the no new revenue tax rate this year. And that is because we had very good growth, because we had decent growth as of January 1, 2020. And that's growth that requires service, which is why you see your expenditures don't go down, right? Theoretically, more growth, more need, more service is how it's supposed to be. And anyway, we'll get more scenarios for you in the upcoming days. Are there any questions with regards to this one scenario from commissioners? And I'm not in gallery mode, but I'll just call on you. Commissioner Modis, do you have any questions?
No, Judge, no, not at this time.
Okay. Okay, he said no, correct, guys?
That's correct. He said no, yes.
All right, and Commissioner Vaughn, do you have any questions with regards to this one scenario?
No, I think you did a great job explaining it, Dale.
I kind of like the pace. I don't know about you guys, but Commissioner Gonzalez, I don't see is at the podium.
He stepped out
But,
for a minute. He stepped out for
He's
a
kind of
minute.
asked for some things that Dale will get him. Commissioner
Yes.
Chesney, any further
I'm-
questions?
I'm good right now, Judge, thank you.
Yeah, I think the pace is very good. When we take our time and we go through it methodically, it really sets us up for the next day when we get a little bit more detailed, I think. You
Judge, I
can't
do,
tackle everything at once.
I do have one question.
Sure.
When Commissioner Gonzalez and Mars wanted to raise the departments in our areas up, and you put Margaret and the judge's assistant, aren't those different job duties? Are they not different already?
I'll have to look at I'll work with HR because, sometimes they're listed as same thing. I believe they could be a little bit separate, but we'll make sure.
Yeah, I would just think all of those are totally different than their job duties are very, very vast compared to ours, I would think.
Yeah. I'll definitely.
When they did
definitely do
the
that, yes.
increase for the assistants in the past, they included those two positions, the executive secretary for the county judge and for court admin.
And why would that be if they're so different in what they do?
I think just administrative.
Okay.
We all work for the same group. I think it was just more of an administrative thing. But they were all moved up at the same time. And so they've kind of kept them together.
So it's still y'all's decision what we do. We'll provide you with the cost of the 4 clerks here for this and then we'll work the scenarios up in case you need the information. We'll have it available.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, I know this probably be a good stopping point for tomorrow, but something I need to really stress on us to look into is on tab W.
Tab, which one, Dale?
W.
W?
Coastal Parks. I know Scott came in and gave a presentation on his budget, but since Hurricane Hannah has pretty much destroyed everything out there, this is something we really need to look into very, very hard. My staff and I have been trying to work with Scott. He's very, very busy. We've lost $300,000 from the pier. So that's gonna mean I've already included additional money coming from the general fund into this. However, there's still, if you look on W3, there's still slightly a negative fund balance. Now, I know he put in a request for some, a lease agreement stuff for some of his equipment. Maybe we can change that from a lease to a CIP number to buy it all at once where we don't have to fund it through this, and that will save $90-some thousand for that. But we need to look at some other costs he has here to do this, because if we look at W5, even though it's still there, that's pretty much all gonna be zero. So we have no way of paying for it right now with what it is. So all this, either, if this was all just for the pier, then that's fine, and because the pier is gonna need probably a total reconstruction on the balances, but the revenue of $350,000 is gone. The other income was the commodities that they sell at the pier, whether they're bait, whether they're tackle, whether they're renting of fishing poles and this stuff. And you see we bring in almost $400,000 worth of revenue to help fund his operation. So we need to make sure we look in this very, very, very closely of what we need to try to do for Coastal Parks, because Coastal Parks gonna need help for maybe 1 or 2 years. Until we get the pier back functioning, we're down a significant amount of money. But that's.
Thank you, Dale. It's a very good item to point out. And if it's okay, I mean, we're gonna, I hope to bring you some more information as soon as we get it. We are still working with the general land office to see what it is that they think they might want to participate in and what they want us to participate in wholly. So it couldn't be worse timing, because by the time they figure it out, we'll be done with our work here. So, but having said that, we'll have to make the best informed decision with the information that we do have at the time. But I will bring to you as much information as I can. I just don't have anything right now.
I mean, we've always helped them before. I mean, what's the difference?
Well, we're just going to have to add quite a bit of significant increase this year because they've lost so much revenue from the pier. And COVID-19 was not very, very nice to them either, because we did close access to the beach, so we didn't have parking permits on the beach, so we didn't have revenue there. Some of his RV parks were not functioning 100%, so we lost a significant amount of money there for COVID-related costs. And we probably, hopefully, will get some of that money back when the CARES Act come in for lost revenue. So, but right now, it's just not in as good a position as it was in the past. I foresee once we get this thing running again, it'll be running smoothly, and we definitely reduce that cost again for the general fund. But for at least for the next year or two, we can.
Let me just give you one concept that I have. I've been making notes for myself over the weekend about ideas, how we could generate dollars there. There is one opportunity. If you go back to the CARES Act, you'll recall that it allows for 25% of your allocation to be used for economic development for small business recovery. So for the restaurant piece of it, those dollars that would have gone to rent, I'm gonna try to see what TDM, this is why I have an expert on consultant, because these are nuances, but it would be great if they would allow us to use some of those dollars for the restaurant's rent, so to speak. And so we're gonna see if that passes muster, just we're floating it as an idea. Does that make sense, Dale? In other words, if the 7 million transfer allocation comes through, 25% of that 7 million can be used for economic development for small business recovery.
Yes.
And therefore, the question I have for TDM right now is, if you make that decision, and 25% represents 1.7 million, to the extent we had a restaurant on the beach, would that work to recompensate us? And for her as well, right? But
Yes.
it's just it's a shot in the dark. But anyway, we've been trying to find ways that we think these dollars are going to be use it or lose it. So we want to make certain that there's a wiggle room for these dollars to be able to be applied. They can. The problem is they're not allowed to be used for lost revenue. But if they're allowed for her to use them, and then she makes good on her rent, well, then that's another case altogether. So anyway, just as we're saying, we're thinking outside the box on that. But the next bit of money that comes down from a compromise bill, if it does come from Congress, will include lost revenue. The question is will it come? And I don't know, but it certainly looks promising with people that are in the know. So we'll find out. But yes, that's we're going to have to make that whole again for that budget to work.
Something that was very promising was, and I know the storm surge didn't do as much damage to the Port Aransas side of it as it did the pier side of it in Balboa Pier and Potty Valley Park. So as long as the RV parks are functional operating, according to Scott Cross, the one over at IB McGee was packed, which means they had all the spots filled, which means that's a lot of money coming in. So
right, and just so you know, the goal is to get beach debris removal, done quickly so that the RV park there at Padre Bayi gets back to its full glory as well. So, I think that that piece of it we can accomplish in short order.
So some of this transfer where we're requesting for the coastal parks can be on a contingent basis if they need it, but right now it looks like they will need it, but if they don't, we can definitely not transfer it if they don't.
What happens to all the, I mean, they make a lot of revenues. What happens to all these funds? I mean, is it not put aside for something like this? I mean, what?
Well, the pier makes $300,000, that $300,000 is transferred for operations.
I mean, it stays with coastal parks, don't come to
No,
general fund.
it stays in the coast park, so the general fund doesn't have to pay for it.
That's what I'm saying, but what, isn't there enough funds? What kind of funds do they have right now?
Well, right now, the pier is gone, so they lost $300,000.
But how much money do they have in their funds?
Right now, they only have $300,000.
That's it?
That's their fund balance.
For all these revenues they've had for years?
Well, like I said, this last year was not good on anybody with COVID-19, with different loss here and trying to close parks for this because of a social distancing side. So everyone lost some money for COVID-19, and Coastal Park was that too. So they went from 700,000 fund balance to 200,000 fund balance. So we just have to make sure once this gets resolved and we hopefully see an end to the virus before
You say we get our
for a
money
very
back?
long
Are you
period,
saying we
then we
get
can
that money
definitely.
back?
Pardon that?
Are you saying we get that money back or what?
Well, no, right now, they need it for operations, and in the near future, if they start seeing the revenue we hope they will expect to see, we can reduce our funds back. And reduce the transfers from the general fund, which means put it into our fund balance to theirs.
You know, as far as the restaurant, I feel like the restaurant, I feel like, I'll tell you how I feel, it's just like somebody else that can't pay the mortgage, you know? I mean, they have to pay it or they lose it, right? I mean, you know, we're bailing somebody else out, but we can't help the small people that can't pay the mortgage because of the hurricane or because of the storm or because of COVID, whatever it is. You know, I mean, some people out there can't pay either, you know, but yet we're gonna bail out a restaurant, you know, and why not the people that can't afford, the business is going down too.
Okay?
You know, there's a lot of business there in the county area that they're going down, they're not, because they can't, because they lost the money. So I think.
Well, that's why, Commissioner, it's important to get that transfer allocation form. When we talk about 25%, we're talking about 1.7 million for small businesses throughout the county. It would be a wonderful opportunity to assist small business all over the county with these funds. That was the intention of the funds. And we need to go make certain we get our fair share. It's the reason we have a stakehold in this one is because that revenue has a steady, it's a future cash revenue. COVID will not last forever. The RV parks, the pier, and the restaurant all have a future cash flow. It's a future source of revenue. And that's why it needs to be protected. But having said that, it's not just for her or one place that I suggest. It's for all county properties, small business owners that would be eligible for a fund like this. And again, there's lots of details to be worked out. We're not even close to getting there. But if we were to get the dollars, 25% of the dollars could be allocated for small business.
But, you know, and the same thing, in the same token, Judge, you know, we say the income, the revenue is supposed to be so much a month, and it's never the amount it's supposed to be. Maybe 6 months out of the year is not the amount. You know, and you pay a mortgage, you gotta pay your mortgage every month regardless of how much you make, how much you gain. You find my mortgage is $1,300, I have to pay $1,300 no matter what. You know, and ours, we've been real flexible, where, you know, well, you give us 7,000 one year, you give us 12,000 next month, and, you know, 5,000 one month, and if it's a mortgage, it's a mortgage. If it's a lease, it's a lease, and you have to pay that amount. I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, we've been very, very flexible with the business, you know, versus what other people are doing out in the community. So, you know, people are in the same boat. You know, they gotta pay. The bank's not saying, okay, well, you don't have to pay us today because you didn't make enough money, or you only pay me 5,000, you know, out of the 10,000 because you didn't make enough money. I mean, they gotta pay, you know, or else they lose. So, I think we've been very, very flexible with those incomes every month.
Well, the payments that they do to us is based on revenue, so,
Only based on revenue, but still be $12,000 a month.
well, that's
Yeah,
the maximum amount, yes.
they've honored the contract, that it's a contractual obligation. Nobody gets a free ride. We created I didn't create it, you guys created it many years ago.
Not me.
And and they've lived up to the letter of the contract, and so we're getting every dollar that we should.
Yes.
And every month that's in the calendar year, so I don't see a problem with the contract or it being lived up to. I just, want us to recognize that we're a part of, just like the fairgrounds, we're a part of them. You can't negate that their success is our success. And that's the relationship that we have. It's no different than the Spectra contract, where we have tremendous lost revenue of over $500,000 thus far. And it behooves us to work with these groups to make sure they make money so that we can make money. Dale, is this a good place as a stopping point, this morning?
Yes, Your Honor, what we'll do is, my staff and I will go through and fix the few errors we have in the reports. We'll create some scenarios that we've been, mentioned to it. We'll provide the cost that the commissioner wants on a 2.5% and 3% cost of living increase. We'll include the salary increases for the commissioner's assistants as requested. We'll give you a few scenarios on tax rates, whether it's, what the no new revenue tax rate would be, what the 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever will go. And we'll give you different scenarios for it, and we'll have something for you tomorrow. But please look through the book, and please, if you have any questions or something looks in error, please let me and my staff know, and we'll make sure we address it and look into it.
Thank you, and I also want to remind the court that Ernest Garza is on the line. He's been listening. He's been a part of these early budget workshops that we've had with the CJ's office, with the auditors, so he's fully informed, very aware. Please call on him and ask him to help you run scenarios if you want to, or try different things. And then he, in the interest of time, can work with Dale to bring forth if you don't have the time, or he's just a very good liaison for the court. And I think that I know I'm gonna hang up and set up an appointment with him this afternoon so we can run some numbers, but just wanted to remind you, he's not for the county judge's office, he's for the court's benefit. And I know I get every dollar out of him, but I want to make sure you guys do too. So if you have interest in reaching out, I know he would be happy to take your email or call. And with that, Dale,
Thank you.
I think it's a good place to stop, and we'll connect again tomorrow. And now that we kind of have the process done from the Zoom side, I don't think it'll be tardy tomorrow. So we'll see everybody. Teresa, do you want to remind the court, are we at an 8:30 start tomorrow?
9 o'clock, 9 a.m.
Okay, we're at a 9 a.m. start tomorrow, so that's good. All of you at 9 a.m. If you need me, I am available by text and email, and I will be speaking to you guys virtually all week from the House in the interest of an abundance of caution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
I'll go ahead and
Judge.
sign off. Thank you.
Commissioners,